Okay, welcome back to members of 121 Community Church in Grapevine, Texas, and to our ongoing study in Teilhard'S book, The Phenomenon of Man. This is our final summary lesson of Teilhard's entire Christian philosophy as a science of phenomenology. Teilhard taught that the psychical realm and the somatic realm are united and can only be united by a science of phenomenology, because phenomenology does address the inner aspect of being. What we're going to look at is a summary chart for his entire science of phenomenology. And keep in mind that Teilhard taught that there are three realms of existence. Now, the middle realm, life, is divided into two categories. So really there are four realms of existence for Teilhard. If you look at the chart, you have three rows. At the bottom, you got the row of pre-life. In the middle, you've got the row of life. At the top, you've got the row of life as fuller being. And then the far right, you have the realm of thought. So the bottom row, pre-life. Middle boxes, life, the realm of life. And then we reach the upper, life as fuller being, and then we move to the right into the realm of thought. The top two rows form an ongoing dialectical circle that never ends. Once we move into that realm of life and fuller being, the top two rows are involved in a circle. It goes 3A, 3B, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 3A, 3B, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, and again. It's a never-ending circle of dialectics. But we have to get there first. So there's the transition from the bottom row to the middle row. So keep that in mind. Teilhard's science of phenomenology is the preferred science for Teilhard because phenomenology does address the inner aspect of being. And he's all about the inner aspect of being. So all the steps are numbered here. We're going to start at the very bottom, block 1, far left on the bottom, the pre-life phase. Elemental matter has the atomic character of finite experience. Unity. Matter continuously asserts its fundamental unity of behavior. Energy. Matter expresses a course of transformation through a process of energia, actualization, the Greek energia. Now, we move from there to block 2. How do we go from the pre-life phenomenal realm to the life realm, which is the noumenal realm, the inner aspect realm? It's through the emergence of new energia and the sacrifice of an equivalent cost. There's always a cost. This brings about the inner aspect of things. Mass is always modified by the inner movement or the velocity, says Teilhard. I prefer inner movement, but he uses the term velocity. Mass is modified by the inner movement of energia. New horizon phenomenon emerges to lead us into this transition. It's an eschatological influence from a new horizon phenomenon. Now we move up into the middle row, and we're going to go to 3A first. So we go from 2 to 3A. The movement of psychical states. The movement of psychical states. We have psychical state A, simple elements that exist with a poor inner aspect, but life begins transitioning to psychical state B when it begins forming complex groups, structured groups with a richer inner aspect. That's how things begin to change. Then we move to 3B and what Teilhard calls the psychically converging curvature of the world. Well, what is that? Well, to put it simply, it is the vision of consciousness. When we get to that upper row of fuller being, it's all about the vision of consciousness. For Teilhard, life moves to greater complexity through the vision of consciousness. Let's take a look at 3B. Vision of consciousness is revealed to have a cosmic variable property that develops the transformations of higher complexity. Higher complexity does evolve in life because of the higher being of a vision of human consciousness that triggers the work of energia, that inner aspect. We're ready to move into fuller being, and by the way, even though this is later in the chart, we're up here in the top row now, that's his first essay in the book. That's his preface essay on seeing. That's his essay on fuller being. Reaching fuller being, block 4, top left. Union. Through the vision of consciousness, we are to posit the self. We are to posit how we recognize that things radiate their inner essence. We, through our vision of consciousness, we start seeing life spiritually. We start examining life spiritually. And we discover that all of life has an inner spiritual aspect, an inner spiritual essence. We unify objective complexity with our vision of consciousness. We discover what Teilhard called the organic curve of the phenomenon of man. We transition to positing patterns of thought. We start putting together sign models. We start organizing sign-like patterns of thought, sign-like patterns of existence. Because of our vision of consciousness, a vision informed by the New Horizon phenomenon. Way back there in block 2. The New Horizon phenomenon emerges. And who is the New Horizon phenomenon? It's a person. It's Jesus as the Christ. We always look to Christ as the future of creation, and he is the New Horizon phenomenon who informs our vision of consciousness. So here we are. We've reached fuller being. And now Teilhard tells us if we go to block 5, top row in the middle, we enter into the illuminating realm of knowing. We, as responsible Christian believers, we enter into the illuminating realm of knowing. We form a sign model of a thoughtful, coherent whole, a thoughtful, coherent world view. We participate in the law of complexification. We're going to talk about that in a little bit here. We participate in the law of complexification. We create an ontological, genetic world order model. because we discover the interior that obtrudes itself and makes itself known by breaking through the exterior surface reality. Kingdom of God becomes evident. Glimpses into the realm of spirit become evident through spiritual sensitivity, through spiritual vision. We discover the interior spiritual realm to all of existence. We form the inner identity of the world that reflects upon itself. We form what Ross teaches us. We form a biblical world view, a biblical sign model. That's what we do. As those who follow the science of phenomenology, that is what we do when we reach the level of fuller being, because we live in the illuminating realm of knowing. We live in the illuminating realm of knowing. Now, we've moved up to that higher level of the realm of life. This is still the realm of life, but it's the realm of life when it reaches thoughtful humanity, and that is the level of life as fuller being. Because everything for Teilhard rests on the vision of consciousness. It matters significantly for Teilhard. But we've got to put that into action. How does that happen? Well, we enter into the highest level of existence. And for Teilhard, that's going to be the far right of the chart. We cross the threshold of the realm of thought, and then we enter into block 6, top right. We cross that realm of thought threshold, and he calls it a threshold. And he says only the human mind crosses that threshold of the realm of thought. Only humanity is created in the image of God. Only humanity crosses that threshold of the realm of thought. So what's next? Well, Teilhard taught us all about the objective within. There is an objective within. There is another way to say this, with a belief in God the Creator, there is a genuine transcendence. At creation, a mass of elementary consciousness was imprisoned in matter itself. It's the early principle of carporphoria. God created all of creation with an inner principle of fruitfulness. It's a very, very primitive elementary level for consciousness, but there's always been this inner aspect of elementary consciousness, which Teilhard says was the principle of carporphoria, the principle of fruit-bearing. Creation will evolve to higher complexity because of the inner principle of carporphoria. Creation will always evolve to greater and greater and greater complexity toward God's kingdom, the fulfillment of the kingdom, because of the inner principle of carporphoria. It's all about bearing fruit. So now we're going to talk about that very unique concept of Teilhard's, and you might as well highlight this. This is going to be a critical step. Look at the chart, go to block 7. It's the far right, down to the bottom, block 7. We enter into, once we cross that threshold of the realm of thought, we enter into the realm of complexification. Very similar to Hegel's realm of positing. If you remember, when we studied Hegel's science of phenomenology, it was very, very similar to what Teilhard is teaching as his science of phenomenology. Both men were Christian philosophers. Both believed in the inner aspect of creation, and both taught phenomenology. Hegel entitled his phenomenology the Phenomenology of Spirit. Teilhard entitled his the Phenomenology of Man. But it is a phenomenology of spirit all the same. So this is critical. Here's your key. We enter into the realm of complexification. And we are dialectically related to the objective within. We are going out of the self to present our world view, our sign model, trying to influence the within of existence, the objective transcendence within existence. We try to influence that, and then it's dialectical. We then return back into the self, into that realm of complexification. It is dialectically related to the objective within. Complexification equals dialectic. Okay? Teilhard calls dialectics complexification. Hegel calls it dialectics. Same thing. The threefold, the threshold of reflection is the central phenomenon of man. There is a psychical transformation when man becomes self-conscious of his own sign-like organizations of reality. We put together a posited complexification. The return of reflection is coupled with that positive complexification because it creates a return moment. And we're going to go through that, and then we will realize a new psychical state, a new mindset. The self is raised to a new sphere of complexification. Teilhard called this the ascension to the power of reflection. The ascension to the power of reflection. So here we are in the realm of thought. We're working on trying to make God's kingdom realized. Try to take the inner aspect of the divine kingdom and make it realized through the spiritual energy, the energia. We're doing that dialectically, back and forth between the realm of complexification and dialectical relationship to the objective within. Then there's a return moment where we go back into the self and reconsider everything and start that circle again. Let's go on now to block 8 and look at our return moment. The return of crossing the threshold of reflection back into the inner self, to enter into that psychical work again. We participate in what Teilhard calls the cosmic function of the omega point, to form a collective consciousness through sacrificial love, agape type love, which Teilhard calls the internal radial zone of spiritual attraction. There is an internal spiritual realm. It is driven by, it is empowered by agape, sacrificial love. That becomes the internal radial zone of the internal. All of existence has an internal spiritual radial zone. It's a zone of spiritual attraction, attracting all of the divine history into the fulfillment of God's kingdom. So we enter into this, return back into the self, we return back into the work of renewal of the mind. We cross back over that threshold of reflection and enter back into the internal self. we have to go back through 3A, the movement of psychical states again. Then we have to go back to 3B, the vision of consciousness. And then we've got to go back to step 4, 5, and 6, where we start working through fuller being and entering and working through the illuminating realm of knowing. And then we go back to the objective within. We go back to the realm of complexification. And then we have another return moment. And that circle goes again, again, and again. It's never ending. We go 3A, 3B, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 3A, 3B, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 is the return moment, back of starting the circle over again and again and again. It goes on forever. It goes on continually. That's going to give us the final lesson in Teilhard's phenomenon of man, his phenomenology of man. This is his science of phenomenology in 8 steps. The bottom row is the pre-life phase. The middle row is the life phase. The top row is the life phase as fuller being that moves to the far right, which is the realm of thought. And then back to return moment in 8. And then start all over again, again, and again. So thank you, my friends. That's going to give you our summary lesson. We can go back to this later in life, and we can remind ourselves again of Teilhard's science of phenomenology, because now we have a picture of his genuine science of phenomenology as a Christian philosopher. That's going to wrap up this summary look at Teilhard, and I'm very thankful that I had the opportunity to study this book. I think it's amazing. So I love his book, The Phenomenon of Man, and we've now got a summary lesson we can always go back to. Thank you, my friends. That's going to wrap up our summary lesson on Teilhard and the phenomenon of man.